to trim for next time. I'm going to use speckled or plain clay. It is in the middle cupboard over there. It comes out a toasty brown. Has little speckles in it. It's a little bit more firm, and it's not something I'm going to throw on the wheel. I don't like throwing it on the wheel ever. It tends to not like a lot of water, which means it cracks when you throw it on the wheel. At least in my experience, it is cracked. So, I'm going to come here. And I'm going to throw out a big slab and then go ahead and use pretty much all of that for this project. As we're using different clays, I need to remind Ceramics 3 of this, they need to pull them off the table. Ceramics 1 doesn't know the difference between a B-mix and a sandy clay. And if you look, there's some dark clays on your table. That's a sandy clay. And they'll start using it just thinking it's just a darker clay. That was for Preston. Thanks for this, Mark. And everyone's like, suck. They don't know yet, or do they know?
Everyone's like, suck. I was really confused right into the thing for a sec there.
They're. Wouldn't you be like, suck? I don't want to see right there going chomp my head off.
Well, no, I'm not going to be saying, oh, suck, I hate this. I'm going to be screaming and crying.
Oh, see, I've always told my wife when we go on airplanes, I'm like, if we crash, I'm going to be pissed.
You're going to be dead.
No, not for like a minute or two. And I'm going to be
double jump
pissed.
the ground.
Double jump. Gosh.
Jump before you hit the ground.
I actually had a dream about that the other day where I was not in a wingsuit, but I fell off a mountain and I picked a mountain and I swooped right up at the right amount of time and landed on the, yeah, it's not going to happen. You're going to crash.
Do you ever have those dreams like when you're on a bike and then you start going downhill and then your brakes break and you're going like upwards of 600 miles an hour and you try to like use your feet to stop?
I feel like you...
And the handlebar
600 miles an
no
hour?
matter what happens, you're going to keep on moving.
I think you'd be able to hold on to something going.
Yeah, man.
Man, all of our needle tools are gone.
What is that?
Okay, so let's get into this. Let's talk about squares just really quickly. If you're going to make a square piece, and your edges are going to line up like this, so it's going to come in like this, so butt, it's called a butt edge. Your measurements are going to be different. If you cut a 5-inch wall, a 5-inch wall, 5-inch wall, 5-inch wall, you're going to have 5 1/4, 5 1/4 by 5, or something like that. So keep that in mind. Or you can go with a tapered edge. So we're going to do that. We're going to cut these out. And I'm just going to do it this way. You can measure, but I'm going to cut a straight line. And then come over here. I want them to be about that big. So I'm just gonna mark that on my measuring stick. You could get a ruler. You don't have to. Line that up. Cut that. Okay, because thick. Because I'm just gonna make a small one for demonstration purposes. We're not gonna go too big on this. So what is that? About 3 inches. And then I'm gonna cut this flat there. Move this out of the way. Okay, so I'm gonna pick my width. This is my height. I should have enough. So my width, I'm gonna come in here and pick just a little bit right there. Again, if you want to grab a ruler, you go right ahead. Okay, the mark is important. So I'm going to cut this. Oh, and this is where I was going to get with this. I'm going to cut these at a bevel. Okay, so watch what I'm doing. I'm going to cut this at an angle here. And then I'm going to come over here and cut this at an angle. All of them are going to go in. Okay, see how that goes in? Like so. You're trying to make that 90 degrees. I like to make it just close. Now, when we come here, this one goes out. I could cut it in, which is fine. Or I can flip it over and it's cut in there. So I'm going to line this up. Mark that. Line this up here. And then when I get these, they're going to go together like that, right? Okay, cruise through this, flip that. Your last project is due on Thursday. Nope, it's due Friday.
Want it to be bisque.
What?
To be bisque fired.
To be turned in to be bisque fired, yes. It does not have to be bisque fired. Real quick before I move on, if you're going to add texture, do it before you cut it. You can do it after, like stamps and stuff, but you tend to warp or manipulate your clay. So hopefully as you're doing this, there will come a point where you start thinking, what do I want my project to look like? If it doesn't happen today, that's fine. Just do some research. Please don't show up on Tuesday of next week and go, well, now I'm gonna think about it. Okay, that's not what we're gonna do. All right, I'm gonna score and slip all of these. Line those up.
My blood sugar's not happy.
Maybe your monitor's hearing my stomach rumble.
No, I think it's just angry that I had a like breakfast shake or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't like that.
All right, we got that. Then we're going to add some slip. Start to put it together. Now, depending on what kind of lid you're going to make, depends on how perfect this has to be. There are lids that will go on, so this is square, but there are lids where you can cut a circle out of the top and make a little round lid that goes into it. It doesn't have to be perfectly square, it can be kind of oblong. You could change your lid style as you move forward, maybe because out of necessity or out of your own creative understanding. Okay, so I've got that put together. Okay, I'm just going to tap my edges. I could stitch them. I could add a coil to them. I could add a coil on the inside. I'm not going to add a coil on the inside, but what I am going to do is I'm going to run my wood knife up and through. So I'm going to hold on the outside and just make sure that my seams are pushed together a little bit. Okay, so we got a box, right? Okay, and this could be any size box. This is just for ease of use. Now we have my measurement right there, and I'm going to make some triangles so that they go inward. So I'm going to come right here. Cut that. I'm sure there's a better way of making triangles, but I'm just going to do it. Line this up. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns so far? No? Anyone already done with my demo? I asked. Okay, I'm gonna pick my middle. Again, you can measure this or you can just eyeball it. And I need to have my height on that as well. What are you saying?
Leftover slabs.
Have this little guy. Okay, I have my little point here, and I'm just going to come from the edge in, and I'm going to cut it at a bevel. I'm not going to cut it flat. For some of you, it may be easier to. Okay, so that's going to sit. Oh, and then the bottom needs to be beveled just a little bit. It's going to sit like this and tilt in just a little bit. Okay, can you see that? Okay, I'm going to cut this straight. What was I saying? Oh, for some of you, you may want to just measure these out and be like, it's 2 1/4 inches up, and then you don't have to rely on your little marks here. I always like to cut in, but you could cut out. Okay, there's 2. Make sure you're picking up your scraps. If we were I don't know what I was going to say. It was going to be amazing. I promise. We're almost there, and this is actually the big reason why we're going through this part of the demo. Okay, so your triangles should have little tapers on all sides. Come in here, I'm going to score them all, and I'm going to put them together. I really like my serrated rib. I really like to put them down on the edge of my table so that I'm not hitting my table. I have no problems with remembering it's just clay, so if it bends a little bit, it'll be all right. If it's not perfectly symmetrical, it'll be all right. Okay, and then we're gonna score my box. Cool. Throw some slip on there. And then 2 sides. The bigger you go, the less sturdy this is going to be. So just kind of pay attention to that. Okay, if you notice, I did not put a bottom on this yet. I don't know what I'm going to do to manipulate this on the inside, but I can reach in there and do some stuff. So I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to come in and again, you can stitch it, you can add coils, you can paddle it. Take most of that slip off. Okay, I'm not going to do this right now, but I'm going to talk about it. Usually when you make a box like this, okay, you see where my line is? My lid is going to drop down from there. Okay, so there will be a square part to it. And I'll trace it out. I'm not going to cut it because I want to do that when it's more leather hard. Just compressing this, being nice to it. Okay. So I can have 2 straight lines, 1 on each side, and then 1 is going to bow up just a little bit. Okay, you see that line? And it's like a puzzle piece. You can be more particular. You could make them even different. So 1 could be like a triangle, 1 could be a circle, so you know exactly where they line up. But those things you might want to have those be part of your embellishments so they tie into your theme and your ideas. Okay, put a bottom on that. I like to put the bottoms on like this. I'm gonna score it. If you want to clean that up, you can. You can also do that once you cut the lid. So you can reach in there because it's kind of open. Score this and add some slip. Set it down, and this is where a lot of people kind of mess up, is then they'll just cut it right now. But you want to pull that off. You want to score that slipped area, because that tells you where your box is, and then you put it back down, wiggle that into place, and now you're going to cut it, and I like to cut at an angle so that it helps to seal up. It gives it a little bit of lift, it makes your piece look a little lighter, and it adds a place for glaze to go to. It's a glaze stop or catch. Anytime clay has an angle change, the glaze has to pause because it's pooling there. Okay, clean that up. But we got that, right? And then from here, what can you do with it? You could embellish it with all kinds of stuff. You can come in and you could add just some little knob feet. A fun foot would be something like this. I'm gonna make this nice and thin. Come in, again, you measure that, whatever you need to do, and then you can just roll it up into like a cinnamon roll. It looks kind of like that. And then you can place that however you want. This way, that way, this way. Completely up to you. So if you want to do that, score and slip that on there. You might do that on the side like this, so it's sitting on the side, and you would put those on there. Any other thoughts on this one? And then you're going to embellish it. Okay, so you have a piece, you have what is going to be a box, and then you're going to embellish it. Right? Okay, set that aside. All right, let's do one of those envelopes. So it's a nice little slab. We'll set that there. Sorry. Didn't mean to get intrusive. Okay, when we make one of these little envelopes, you could choose what the shape is. A lot of times it's going to be, well, let's add some texture to it. Okay, so there's some texture. Before I cut it, I'm going to lift it. And I'm just going to eyeball this. And I'm just going to come here and go like that. That'll be great. Now, because I have texture on both sides, I'm going to use this as my template, but I've got to flip it over. If I don't flip it over, because it's not perfectly symmetrical, if I don't flip it over, it's going to, the textures are going to go on the inside. At least one of them is. So come here. Now, with most things clay, these are guidelines. Some people call them best practices. I would call them guidelines. Like, hey, this is a good place to start. But if you want to do it slightly different, compressing your clay, scoring and slipping your clay, paddling your clay is a good way to get your clay to work. So if it's not exactly where you want it, or you don't exactly like this, that's fine. Kind of work through that. So I have this there, and I'm going to pull it out a little bit, and then I'm going to tilt it in. Now, I'm going to have to put a bottom on this in a second. So if I want, I could taper my edges so they go together really quickly, or I could just compress these together. I'm gonna taper them. So tilt those, give this a little taper. There. And then we're gonna score that. Now, if you need to have a function for your pieces, this is probably not one that has a function. It just kind of sits there and looks pretty. Or has the potential to sit there and look pretty. All right, I'm gonna push these together, try not to kill my texture. But I'm gonna embellish this. So if you ever kill your texture, you can always come in and score and slip something in that spot. Keeping that bottom pushed out. Okay, it's like a pita pocket. All right, this bottom is a little bit split and it's gonna wanna fall apart. Let's see if I can't get that together. Now we're gonna put the bottom on. So this is a pretty quick one to make. We'll put the bottom on, let it get leather hard, and then we'll create something up top. Now there's a bunch of ways to do that. You could create it first, let it get leather hard, and then cut it out, or you can cut it out and then make a little plug for it. We'll do some of that on Thursday, Friday. I can't even remember what today is. Friday. Score that. I'm gonna slip this. So before I put it down, I'm gonna try to bend this out just a little bit, give it some volume. That should be okay. Set that down there. Now, if you don't want to pick this up again, which I'm going to, like this, what you could have done, you could come in there and just score the whole thing, right? We're not gonna see the bottom of this. If you're seeing a bottom of a jar, because like this, you may not want a lot of texture down there by scoring it. But this one, probably not gonna see it, so we're just gonna push that in there. Volume, work it into place, and then cut it. Okay, the same thing for this. When it gets leather hard, I could put feet on it. I could make those feet match match my lid. That is another requirement. It has to have a lid. But there are so many types of lids that I'm gonna kind of leave that up to you. Anyway, what kind of questions do you have so far? None questions? Okay, let's go. Wedge this up. Trying to think, is there another hand building one you want to see? Actually, there is. Did anyone have a suggestion? Let's make a quick. Yeah.
Where's the lid on that one?
Where is it?
Yeah.
It's going to be a little stopper, so I'll cut this in and either use what's there or I'll score and slip something that's gonna pop in there. It's just gonna be a little thing. Again, this one's ornamental. Maybe focusing on mental. Ornate. Mental.
Sure.
Thanks for just agreeing.
Boss should go swirly again.
Careful. T-Rex is coming. We're gonna make one kind of like this. Okay, a little round jar with a gallery inside. And it's gonna go like this. So we're gonna cut out a strip, kind of like when we're making a mug. And you could use a cylinder if you want. It's completely up to you. There's my bottom. Going to, here's my side. Taper that in. I'll line this up down here. This is now going to be my height. Here's my top. If you were to make a set of jars, there's a couple of ways you could maybe go. So I went in this way, so I'm going to go out this way. There's a couple of ways you could maybe look at that. And I'm going to come up here and do another one. Those couple of ways, you could make them identical. So measure them out so they're all the same. They're all 3.5 inches tall. They're all the same diameter. Or you could make them similar in styling. So they're different heights, different widths, things like that. Okay, have those. Now, there are 2 ways to put that flange on the inside. They're both just fine. The first way is this. We're going to take a piece of clay. I'm going to cut a nice straight line. We're going to take it and put it on here. Wherever we want our lid to sit to. Does everyone see this? So remember, this is where we're learning our information, so when you get stuck, you have information to compile from. Make sure that's about the right length, or the same distance down. Flip that over. Okay, one of the problems with this one is this adds some pretty good tension to your piece. So this is the inside. Push that down. Okay. then my these all need to line up. I'm gonna cut through there. And maybe that should stick out a little more. Okay, and this is why it happens. When I fold that, it's gonna add tension on the inside. And you can manipulate that down, so I'm gonna show you how that looks. Oh wait, we need to score this. I'm gonna score here, I'm gonna score there. Add a little slip. But it's going to buckle my my flange there, or sorry, my gallery there. But all you're gonna do is get that together, and then you're gonna come in here and push it down. It's just clay. And then line it up the best you can. The other way is you're going to make your cylinder and then put the gallery on inside. And then there's less tension to it. It doesn't matter which way you make it, you choose. I bet some of you can't wait to get to college. Why would I say that? Because most college classes are all lecture. And then they're like, now go do your homework. Now go do your labs. Sounds gross. Oh, I cut these both this direction. I'm gonna change my idea here and cut this one out. Because I'm gonna make a teardrop one. I thought I had a piece that was teardrop shaped, but I couldn't find it, so I'm gonna make one. So by teardrop, when I bring these together, I'm gonna have a round end, and it's gonna come into a little point. Okay, you see that? Okay, then we're going to put the gallery area in. Just gonna line this up here. And then it's got to be a little smaller. And we're gonna come in here and cut that. That's a big, a lot smaller. Okay, I'm gonna score that. You could have drawn a line here before. We call this the eyeball method. There's a tiny bit of slip. Still a little. And then we're going to make the lids really quickly. I'm not gonna mess with the compressing it too much. But you should compress it. You should add coils if you need to, smooth it out. One of the most important things for your gallery and your flange is that it's pretty straight up and down, or tilted out. It can't be tilted in. If it's tilted in, your lid's gonna sit in there and it's gonna have a hard time coming out. Okay, so this is how I would make lids for both of these. This one's a little easier to get to fit. But if you want a domed lid like this, you're gonna take a piece of clay, I'm going to cut that out just a tiny bit bigger. Because we're going to clean that up later. Yeah, this one. So I didn't put the bottom on yet. Does anyone notice that? So I didn't put the bottom on yet. Cut that out. This way is not as important for a round piece. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to grab some saran wrap. Set that right there. And on a round piece, make sure your piece is where it's going to be. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to push it in like so. And then we're going to let it sit. And then when it sits like that, it'll start to get leather hard. Saran wrap, so you can pull that out fairly easily. And then when it's leather hard, we'll flip it over and then we'll adjust it so that it sits down into that gallery. Okay, and you can adjust the pot itself, you can adjust the lid. Now this one, I'm gonna do differently. So this is the top. Glad people are on their phones and sleeping. I'm more glad that people are not. So if this is the top and it's not perfectly symmetrical, if I were to push this down, when I flip it over, it's going to be the opposite. Okay. So what I want to do is make sure my bottom and my top look pretty similar. I'm going to grab some plastic wrap. Put it on the bottom and then push this down into the bottom. And that way it should line up better when I flip it over. So on a misshaped piece, do it on the bottom. On a round piece, you can do it on the top. Those are the kind of things that when you come and ask me, I'll be like, that should be on your notes so that you can remember. Okay, any questions on that? Then we're going to make it, we're going to let it get to leather hard, we're going to adjust it, we're going to get it to sit down. We'll do some of that on Friday. Let's head back to the wheel really quickly, and I'm going to start throwing some of our lidded containers back there. So everyone head on back.